Okay. Yeah. So this is my avatar, and one of the things about the metaverse is that, by and large, the metaverse uses avatars. So you are represented in the metaverse as a person, and this is Hobson Hoggard, and I'll be talking about him a bit more as we go through. So just a few things about me, because if you happen to bump into me on the ship, there may be some of my experiences and some of the places I've lived and some of the things I've done that you have in common, and you can have a conversation with me. So I was born in Boston, not Massachusetts, but in the UK. I went to university in Birmingham, I lived in Leicester, I worked in Kuala Lumpur, and I live now in a little village in Northamptonshire. My passion is about how technology has changed the world. And I can see there are a few of you in the same generation as me, a few grey-haired people. And I think that my generation are probably the luckiest generation that's ever lived, because we have witnessed the greatest changes in the world of any generation, particularly with the way technologies develop. I won't go through all of the other things, other than to mention that I've also done some TV extra work on British soap programmes. And I'm the author of this book, because it's relevant to what I'm talking about. It's called Gadgets to God. And it's not a religious book at all. It's not meant to be religious. It's about how I've seen technology change in my lifetime. And you see, on the front cover of the book, there's me driving a steam train. So this steam locomotive was actually built after I was born. So it's actually younger than me, even though it's a steam locomotive. So that was the 1950s. And in that time, we've gone from steam locomotives to virtual worlds. So in the top corner is a picture of me, or my avatar, Hobson Hoggard, standing on the moon. And so it's all about how technology has changed in my lifetime and what it means for every one of us and the future of the human race. So here's some questions that you might have in your mind. If you've got any others, just store them and ask me to go along. Does anybody know where the term metaverse originated? Yeah?
Facebook.
No. No. Facebook changed their name to Meta, but they're not there. I'm going to tell you that in a minute. So, how long has the metaverse been around? Anybody got any idea?
2005.
Sorry?
2005.
Before that? Actually about 2002, and I say that there are other examples of things that you could call the metaverse, but the one that I got most involved with was Second Life with Linden Labs, which started in 2002. Do you need a virtual reality headset to access the metaverse?
No.
No, you don't. That's one of the things that's different about the metaverse to virtual reality. You don't need a virtual reality headset. Do you need to have an avatar?
Yes.
Normally, yes. Is the metaverse one big virtual world? Anybody? Any idea? No, it's not. And I'll explain what it is, but it's not one big metaverse that's the same thing. It's three-dimensional. Why did Facebook change its name to Meta? I think Mark Zuckerberg thinks that he's going to make a lot of money out of it. He may or may not be right, but he's made a lot of money already. And is the metaverse one big environment or many different ones? And will everyone be living in the metaverse in the future? So I'm going to try and answer some of those questions. So the point about it is, and these are my beliefs about why the metaverse has come along. And it's come along because as human beings, we have certain limitations. And human beings like to be in control of their lives and their future. They don't like to be limited. So these are some of the most important limitations that, yes?
What is the definition of metaverse?
The metaverse, it's got many different definitions, but you could describe it as a three-dimensional virtual world which is populated by avatars who are carrying out transactions and actions that are normally mirrored in the real world. So imagine what you do in the real world. You go to the shops, you buy something, your avatar can go into the shops and buy things in the virtual world. You go to a hospital in real life, you can go to a hospital in a virtual world. Why your avatar would want to go to a hospital, I'm going to explain in a little while. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. So we're limited by our physical ability, and as people of my generation know, you get more and more limited in your physical ability as you get older. Limited to the speed of travel. So, mind you, when I go around on the promenade deck in the morning, there are some people who seem to be quite a bit faster than me. I get overtaken all the time. But human beings, by themselves, if you go back to the dawn of civilization, we're limited in how fast we can move. We can't fly like a bird. We cannot travel back through time. We can't be in two places at the same time, and I don't know whether you've seen the film. I haven't seen it, but it's called Here, There and Everywhere All at the Same Time, and it's won some Oscars. So if you're interested in, maybe a glimpse into what might be the future, I recommend going and see that film. There's also a limit, as human beings, to the number of people we can have a relationship with at the same time. We're limited in our mental capacity. We can only remember certain things, and as you get older, I'm sure you know, there's less and less that you can remember. And we're not immortal, right? We're not immortal. So, can the metaverse and other technologies overcome these limitations? And I hope to be able to answer that question as we go through, or at least explain why the metaverse is seen as something that can solve these kind of problems. So, what is the metaverse? Well, you can look at it in two different ways. Essentially, you can regard it as a parallel universe that coexists with the physical universe. So, I'll give you an example. I was the founding director of the Serious Games Institute at Coventry University, which is about how you use games technology and techniques for serious purposes like education and training and simulation, all that kind of thing. The metaverse was a parallel world. We had an exact replica of my university building in the metaverse. And it was designed to look exactly like the same thing. And in fact, when I made my avatar those years ago, Hobson Hoggard, I tried to make it look like me. So I got a nice suit and a tie. But you don't have to make it look like yourself. So some people think that this is an idea of heaven. If you can solve all of these problems, the metaverse is going to be like heaven. For other people, who see it in a different way, that can be something like a vision of hell. So the origins of the metaverse, the actual word metaverse, first appeared in a book called Snow Crash, which is like an adventure story about this character who finishes up in this virtual world, and he lives in this virtual world, and he's involved in some violent crime activities. But that's where the word metaverse first came along. So that was in the 1990s. Nobody ever heard or used the word before, so he was quite a foresight. But also, I don't remember, old enough to remember the game Doom, which you could play on a computer. It looked like that. The graphics were awful, but it was what was called a shoot-'em-up game, first-person shooter game. So the idea was that you saw all these monsters coming towards you, and you had to kill them, like many video games that kids play today. But that was a very early example of the metaverse, because you could move around in this virtual world. You could fire your gun or your weapons, and you get a score according to how many people you killed. From my point of view, I got involved in the metaverse really quite early. It was about 2003, and when I became the founding director of the Serious Games Institute, I wanted my mandate was to make the Serious Games Institute a leading place in the world for the use of games technology for serious purposes. And the way that I thought about doing that was to try and do something that had never done before. So we created a Metaverse example of the Serious Games Institute. This is what the building actually looked like, and this was my avatar, Hobson Hoggard. And we also ran the very first hybrid conference, where the conference took place at Coventry University with about 100 delegates in the university, and at the same time, as you can see on here, all around our virtual auditorium, you can see these characters, these avatars, were watching the conference live from anywhere in the world. And what's on the screen there is actually me doing my presentation. So this conference was watched by people in an audience like you, but it was also watched by avatars, and although you can't see too well from there probably, but avatars took all kinds of forms. Some we got wings, some were demons, depending on how people wanted to represent themselves. So when you're thinking about the metaverse, it's not all one thing. And I think the best way to think of it is the metaverse is like a newly discovered planet with an emerging civilization. Okay, so it's populated by different countries, just like planet Earth is. If you imagine it that way, you won't go far wrong, because each of these civilizations has different origins. And so they have their own cultures, they have their own beliefs, they have their own ways of doing things. Not everybody does the thing, so there's not really one big standard in the metaverse. So if you think of the different civilizations that exist in the metaverse, they come from different backgrounds. Some people come from the games industry. If you've heard of Roblox and a lot of other Minecraft, a lot of other games that kids play today, they have their own way of doing things, but they're a big driving force in the way the metaverse works. Social media, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg's backed the metaverse in a really big way. He's paying a lot of money, investing huge amounts of money, because he thinks he's going to make a lot of money for it. I'm not sure myself. It's sometimes called Web 3.0. So now when you access the internet now, what you see is a two-dimensional thing. When you go shopping on the internet, if you use Amazon, that's a two-dimensional thing. Web 3.0 means that you go onto your computer in the same way to buy things, but instead of having just a flat screen with a list of products, it's like you're inside a shop. So you can wander around, and there are a lot, particularly fashion industry. Fashion industry is very, very good on this, because there are applications in the fashion industry metaverse where you can go into a fashion shop, you can see all the dresses and all the clothes, and you can try them on, your avatar, and you can see what they would look like on you, as long as your avatar reasonably represents you. And you can even buy them online. And you might even have an avatar shop assistant who will come and talk to you and find out what you like. So, but you can do that. You can do that on your own PC, and even you can do it on smartphones as well. So it works on desktop computers and smartphones. Anybody heard of NFTs? Anybody? Yeah, yeah. Do you know what it stands for?
Non-fungible tokens.
Non-fungible tokens. That's an interesting phrase to get your tongue round. Non-fungible tokens. And what it means is that you can buy stuff. You can buy virtual products. So you can buy a dress that is unique to you, and it uses another technology called blockchain, which actually verifies that that dress belongs to you. So it's just like a sales ledger, really, and you can sell that dress. So it becomes what's known as a non-fungible token. And I And there are people who are selling paintings, selling all kinds of products because they can verify the transaction and the ownership of the person through these non-fungible tokens. And I was at a conference fairly recently in Newcastle in the UK when there was a senior guy from Accenture there, and he made a very controversial point because he believed that in not so many years' time you won't have estate agents, because people will go into the metaverse, they look round the house, the house will have all of the details that the estate agent and the lawyers need to conduct the transaction, verified, you know, the power consumption, its history, everything will be logged and verifiable through this technology called blockchain. So you'll be able to look around this property virtually and you'll be able to buy that property without any other human being involved. And
What about the neighbors?
Sorry?
What about the neighbors?
Well, there you are. You might have the same. You might have the same problem with neighbours in the metaverse. And I can tell you a few horror stories about neighbours in the metaverse. But there's a whole range of things. I'm going to talk in a bit more detail about it. But some of the things that we use the metaverse for in the early days at the Serious Games Institute. We use it for virtual events like this, like conferences and workshops. We did project meetings, and the project meetings we conducted in Second Life were some of the most productive I've ever been involved in. And I'll explain to you why, and I'll explain also what it meant to one of our project team who suffered from cerebral palsy. So if you know anything about cerebral palsy, it's a very debilitating condition. And it's a chap called Simon Stevens. I'll tell you the story a little bit later. But it made a world of difference because he was able to be part of our team on a level playing field. It's used for visualizing data, and I'll show you an example. You can also connect the metaverse to the real world. And you probably won't be able to see it there, but this little device here on my desk is called a Nabas tag. Anybody heard of a Nabas tag? No. A Nabas tag is like an electronic, well, it looks like a rabbit, it can look like anything, but it actually connects the metaverse to the physical world. So this Nabas tag was monitoring the temperature, and it was also able to detect when somebody came into my office in the metaverse. So if I was in the Serious Games Institute, the physical one, sat at my desk, and I saw the rabbit's ears rotating, I knew somebody was in my office. And so I could go online and join that person in the virtual world, in my office. So it was connecting. Yes?
So just going back to when you were talking about the estate sales and the dresses and the NFT artwork and
Yes.
stuff like that, all of that's in the metaverse. None of it is anything I am going to physically touch.
That's what he was implying that you would do. I'm going to tell you what people say and what people think. I don't personally agree with him. You know, I think the metaverse has got some great uses, but that's not one of them. And I don't see people will actually conduct their transactions that way. But it doesn't mean that what you'll buy is not the virtual property. You can look around the virtual property, which will mirror the real one, but you will actually be buying the physical property. So, you know, it's legitimate in that sense. It's just that it's a verifiable transaction that doesn't require another human being to be involved in the transaction. It protects you. It's used for trade. We had a virtual marketplace. Didn't really sell products, but it was just a community development project to help this small town in the UK to make a name for itself. I'll talk a little bit more about this one. This picture here is a friend of mine. He's playing the guitar, or his avatar is playing guitar with some school children. And this project helped to raise £3 million to rebuild a pier. and I'll explain how they did that. And really, I think that was one of the best examples of how the Metaverse has been used for real value in a real life situation, because he would never ever have been able to raise that amount of money with the physical, without the Metaverse. Okay, it also can be used for orientation and induction. So you might want to give people an opportunity to look at your building. So in my case, I wanted people to have a look around the Serious Games Institute in an interesting, novel way. So we model the Serious Games Institute, and this is a short video. I apologise for the quality of the video, but it was recorded 15 years ago when the technology wasn't as good as it is today. But so the video is a bit grainy, but you'll see some of the things that the Metaverse can do. So here's my avatar. Okay, it's called a flying visit. So that's one of the things that avatars can do that I can't. I can fly. So I fly to the Serious Games Institute, which actually looks like that. The buildings around it don't look the same. Okay, when you're flying in Second Life Metaverse, you can have sound effects that make it sound as if you're flying in a windy environment, or maybe like it was on the promenade deck this morning, a bit windy. So I'm going to drop to the floor, and then I'm going to walk round